See, that wasn't me there, it just happened, but is it alright? Is it pointing at me? Yeah. Sit down. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Do you mind? You guys hot? Okay, can we close? Can we close? Yeah? Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, Muhammad. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum ta'ala. إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تبارك وتعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته حياكم الله إخواني في الله. Today I sent the printouts to Abu Sumayya late, so they haven't run out. They're gonna come. They're getting printed right now, and that was totally my fault. So what we're gonna do, inshallah ta'ala, up until the printouts come, inshallah, within the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to just do a quick recap. I think that's always a good idea, and inshallah ta'ala, open up the floor to any questions that may be pending. And some questions that I know that there are some people here that have asked questions that I need to clarify. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. How does that sound, guys? Jade. Alright, before we get into the book, Bi'idhni Rabbina Azza wa Jal, who can tell me the name of the book, the author of the book, when he died, and when he was born, and when he passed away? 3 questions in one. You can give me just one of those. Free. So the name of the book, then we'll go to somebody else for the author, then when he was born and when he subsequently passed away, rahimahullah ta'ala. And please, nobody say Ibn Hajar. I want the name Kamil. Bismillah. Name of the book. Būloogh al-Marām. Excellent. Būloogh al-Marām. طيب اسمه المصنف أو المؤلف. يعني اسمه name المؤلف أو المصنف, the author. اسم المؤلف ما هو؟ ممتاز أحسنت. متى ولد ومتى توفي؟ ولد بمعنى, that's how you want your Arabic lessons, isn't it? Just straight like that. ولد. Don't say that, bro. كيف ليكون. ولد مجهول صح؟ أي نعم. أخي, I sent it 14 minutes ago. You said no email or no ink? No email. I sent it 14 minutes ago. Admin at Croydon ICT, yeah? Sorry guys. Nah, fee. Sent again Abu Sumayya. طيب ولد بمعنى he was born. وتوفي, he passed away. فمتى ولد؟ 773. ممتاز. ومتى توفي؟ 852. ممتاز. Excellent. Jade. Who can give me 2 other books الذي صنفه المؤلف? What? Just give me one and then we'll go to somebody else for another book. Fath al-Bari, excellent. And Fath al-Bari is a what? It's a book about what? it's a sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari. Sharh بمعنى ماذا؟ Explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. وكتابا آخر فتح الباري, which is a sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari, and another book al-Isaba. Excellent. في تمييز الصحابة. It's a book dealing with the companions of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, but a detailed breakdown as to their biography. Fantastic, excellent, barakallahu feek. Who can give me 3 things about Abu al-Fadl Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? 3 things about his biography, if you like. MashaAllah, Muslim, just me and you today, yeah? He was an orphan at a young age. Excellent, fantastic. You know, you can give me all 3, no worries. Come, bismillah. Yeah, 3, but one, but no problem. Hafid at 9. Hafid of what? Quran, mumtaz, excellent, and?
Judge of Sham.
Excellent, barakallahu fi, became the judge of. So we're not speaking about, an ordinary individual, mashallah, tabarakallah. He excelled in the deen. Excellent. ممتاز. طيب, when I say al-hadith, ماذا أقصد به? What do I intend by it? What أقصد, I intend به, by it, by the word al-hadith. عندما أقول الحديث ماذا أعني? What do I mean?
Narration.
نعم, هذا هو الترجمة. That's the translation. لكن ما هو تعريف الحديث? What is the definition of a hadith?
The sayings of the Prophet, what the Prophet used to do, or what the Prophet didn't used to do.
What he didn't used to do?
Yeah, what like.
Is that what the companion saw him do?
No, like.
Silent approval.
ممتاز. ما نصب إلى رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام من قول أو فعل أو تقرير. Anything that has been attributed to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام from speech, action, and silent approval. Who can remember what the word for silent approval in Arabic is? Silent approval. Hey, now, I just said it. تقرير. تا قاف را يا را. يا أبا سمية, هل جاءك? Have you refreshed your email? Okay. Send it twice, bro. It's in my sent. Yeah. Strange. I do apologize, guys.
Try to zip it, maybe.
Zipping? What do you mean?
Compress the file size.
No, I don't think it. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Is it from
I don't know. No. Sorry, guys. Please spare me 1 sec. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do it different today, inshallah ta'ala. We're not gonna have a printout because I don't know how to zip it, and I don't want everybody just to be sitting around. لا بأس. Okay, طيب. ما معنى الإسناد أو السند? الإسناد أو السند. Somebody different. Somebody that hasn't answered. Somebody maybe from the side.
Is that the chain of narration?
Mumtaz, the chain of narration. So you got the hadith, and that's whatever the Prophet ﷺ said, did, or he remained silent about if it occurred in his presence. And then you've got the sanad, which is all of the people that are in the chain of narration, i.e. the person that heard it from the Prophet ﷺ, then the person that heard it from him, then the person that heard it from him, then the person that heard it from him, all the way down to the sheikh who put it in his book, be it Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, and the likes. Excellent. ما معنى المتن? Text. And what does that refer to?
The text of the book.
The text of the hadith. A matan could mean the text of a book. نعم. طيب. ما معنى المتفق عليه? I want one of the older sheikhs to answer this question.
It's agreed upon between Imam Muslim and Imam Bukhari.
نعم. Normally we say al-Bukhari wa Muslim. Bukhari first, then Muslim. But نعم, it's agreed upon by Imam al-Bukhari wa Muslim. ممتاز. Fantastic. ممتاز. طيب. ما هو الفرق بين الخبث والحدث? This is like lesson number 1, إخواني. ما هو الفرق بين الخبث والحدث؟
removal of.
I don't want a translation.
Oh, okay.
I don't want a translation. I want the difference.
Oh, okay.
Like if I said to you,
Or
for
physical impurity and spiritual impurity.
Okay, go on.
No, I wasn't here. I'm guessing.
No, you say you answer something. Go on.
So I'm thinking of like hadith being like physical impurity, like najas, like that thing, like actual physical impurities.
And that's a hadith.
I think so. I'm not sure.
No worries. Let me go to you.
Tangible and intangible.
Okay, which one's which?
Hadith is intangible.
Excellent. And
Khabar is tangible.
Mumtaz. The way you remember it, guys, if you break your wudu, you are called muhdith. Alright? Or muhdath. You are in a state of ritual impurity. Alright? If you pass wind, if you vomit, if you fall into a deep sleep, and all the other nawaqid al-wudu, you're now muhdath. Alright? If somebody passed wind, you're not going to get, like lurgies or germs from him. He's in a spiritual state of impurity. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's say he passed wind half an hour ago. If you smell him, he's not going to smell anymore. Sometimes somebody even might pass wind, you won't even know that they've passed wind. But they're spiritually impure. Versus somebody that has, for example, touched feces. After half an hour, that feces, if that's still on him, he's still going to smell. So the khabath is the tangible impurity, urine, period blood, feces, and the likes. But al-hadith is something that happens internally in the body. Somebody passed wind, or somebody's gone to the toilet. Nobody knows right now if I'm in a state of ritual purity or impurity right now, right? Nobody knows. But if I had some najasa on my thobe, everybody will be able to see that. Naam, Sheikh Muhammad.
Is there a significance between the two? Like, is the difference significant in any way? I.e., sometimes you might be able to do certain things under certain conditions, but not the other. You know what I mean?
I believe so. From what I understand of the question, let's say, for example, somebody is muhdith, right? Somebody is muhdith. Then he is in a state of minor impurity. Al-hadath can be akbar or it can be asghar. Yeah. All right, a hadith can be minor or it can be major. So if you pass wind, is that major or minor? If you go urine, major or minor? Deep sleep, major or minor? Minor, excellent. And okay, junub now, that's a major. So if you have sexual relations, or it doesn't have to be sexual relations, but you ejaculate, then you're in a state of major impurity, which can be only removed by what? Al-ghusl. Like in the minor can only be removed by what? Al-wudu. And al-istita'a. Yani with al-istita'a with capability. Because if you can't use water, you can use dirt.
So that kind of answers the question on one level. So that's the difference in terms of one you can do wudu, the other you can.
No. That's what I was going to explain. Yeah. So if I wish I had a board, man. All right, I'm going to do it with my hands. Al-hadath, al-khabath. Yeah. Al-hadath is split into two. Right. Minor, major. Yeah. Minor can be removed by wudu. Major can be removed by al-ghusl. But it's still al-hadath. Yeah. But as it relates to al-najasa now, remember, this is something that happens internally in the body and then it comes out. Pass wind, internal, comes out. Urination, internal comes out. Ejaculation, internal comes out. Your body is now in a state of ritual impurity. As it relates to najasa now, this is something that is tangible. You can see it. You can smell it even after a long period of time. Do you know what I'm saying? If there's feces on the floor, then that feces is going to remain feces. But if somebody is in a state of janaba, you won't know. You won't know he's in a state of janaba. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the difference between al-hadath and al-khabath. One is a ritual impurity, which is inside the body. It's al-wasf al-qa'im bil-badan. It's a ritual impurity that's inside the body. As it relates to an-najasa now, it's a tangible impurity that you can see or touch. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? G.
But is the
is the akbar and asghar
في قبض.
في الحدث.
No, but in قبض is.
لا, it's just najasa. It's just, yeah, al-khabath is just najis. It's just najis. But sorry, you're right. It's najis, yeah. There's najis, but in najasa, you've got najasa that is heavy. You've got najasa which is considered to be medium, and then you've got najasa which is considered to be light. For example, we covered that al-mani. Who can remember what al-mani means? Semen. All right, sperm. Al-mani. Huh? ليس بطيب طاهر. طاهر is pure. It's almost on the same manzila as spit. Do you know what I'm saying? If you spat accidentally on your, or even on somebody else, that person might say, "Oh, what are you doing?" But you're not in a state that you don't have to go make wudu to it. If you snot, you laugh, somebody sneezed, or you laugh, somebody cracked a joke, it's so funny, and you laughed at your nose. Listen, imagine. So, ikhwani fillah. What's your personal, bro? I sent it. Now look, if I go to you, I did it. That one. Somebody cracked a joke and you laughed and some snot came out and it hit your thing. You know, it's pure. Obviously, you would clean it off. Do you know what I'm saying? It's bad adab to be walking around with snot on your hand.
That's a bit embarrassing.
And it's embarrassing. Just like if you had semen on your clothes, it would still be embarrassing. But the issue is it pure or not? Now, there's something else that we spoke about, which you mentioned, Akhi, if you remember. What was the other issue that we spoke about? That I made a mistake, but I clarified in the next lesson. Al-madhi. Who can remember what al-madhi is? I want Amir to answer this question. Al-madhi.
هو شاعر يعني.
هو شاعر? شاعر?
لا
Poet?
لا. What's the word for شاعر?
Oh, مستحي.
هو مستحي.
هو أمير؟
لا.
ليس بمستحي. ما شاء الله يتكلم كثير. يشارك في الدرس. He participates a lot. You guys know each other, I'm assuming. Yeah, ما شاء الله.
هو صديقي.
Oh, for real?
نعم.
جميل. So we've got al-mani, which is semen, sperm, and then we've got al-madhi. What is al-madhi? That comes out when? Before? Okay, before like a man climaxes, yeah? It's a clear liquid and it differs from semen because this clear one is kind of almost like see-through. Doesn't have no smell. Versus semen, which is a thick white substance. Sometimes it can have a smell to it. And it's quite strange that the semen is pure, but this one is what? Najis. It's najis, but it's a light type of najasa, which if it happens to come out of you, for whatever reason, you know, you see it in your boxer shorts or whatever, you don't have to make al-ghusl. It's not a najasa that necessitates al-ghusl. You just have to clean it off with water and then you make al-wudu. So not every single thing that's najis necessitates al-ghusl. Does that make sense? Yeah, kalb najis? Najis? A kalb? Okay, yeah, no, not that you wash it a bit more. We dealt with the lu'ab, the saliva of a dog. What did we say, Ikhwani? Somebody that hasn't participated.
Wash it 7 times.
Wash what 7 times?
Wash the saliva of the dog if it gets onto your clothes or onto you any type of way. Wash it 7 times, and one of the times has to be with dirt.
Yeah, same thing. Excellent. 7 times. That's what the hadith mentions. ممتاز. Excellent, إخواني. أبو سمية جاءك؟
نعم.
المشكلة عندك أخي. By the way, al-mushkila, the problem عندك is with you. Yeah. Now this is for the brothers that don't understand Arabic, so you pick up little words here and there. Excellent. طيب. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. لماذا بدأ الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى البلوغ بالطهارة؟ لماذا بدأ الشيخ الكتاب بالطهارة? Why did the Sheikh begin his book with At-tahara.
I'm gonna guess.
Mumtaz.
I'm gonna say it's because when we want to do stuff like pray or do anything, we have to know that the tahara and what's keen and what's not before we initiate any of these acts of worship. That's what I'm gonna say.
Nice. Akhi?
Salah is one of the pillars of Islam. So in
The
order
greatest
for you to,
after the Shahada now.
in order for you to complete that one pillar, you need purification.
ممتاز. Fantastic. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام قال مفتاح الصلاة الطهور. يعني الطهور عفوا. The key to prayer is purification. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the salah, which is the greatest pillar بعد الشهادة, after the shahada, such a tremendous manzila, status, and it's also at-tahara is a shart min ماذا? It's a condition of what? Of salah. It's a condition of the salah. It's appropriate that the Shaykh, he began his book with at-tahara, purification. On that note, ikhwani fillah, who knows the difference between a condition, a shart, a rukun, a pillar? Shart and a rukun. What's the difference between the two?
One is before the prayer, one is during the prayer.
Which one is which?
The condition is before, and the pillars as well. When you're about to start praying.
Okay, so the condition is before and the pillar is when? Before. Before as well?
No, it's after the condition.
During.
Say again, bro.
So the conditions are first,
So the conditions are before the action. Is that what you mean?
and the pillar is after you.
After what? After the action is completed?
No, because the pillar is when you're initiating the salah, isn't it?
You sure?
No.
I want somebody that hasn't participated. This is muhim jiddan. Sami. A shart, condition, rukun, pillar. What's the difference between the two? You wasn't, يعني أخي ما كنت بعيدا. You wasn't far. You weren't too far, أخي. You weren't like, you know. Ibrahim, Sheikh Ibrahim. Mumtaz, that's it. Conditions occur before the prayer or before the action. You understand? So when you're talking about the conditions of as-salah, you're speaking about what? Al-wudu happens before you pray or during the prayer?
Before.
Dukhul al-waqt, the entry of time happens before the prayer or during the prayer? Before. Istiqbal al-qibla. Facing the qibla happens before the prayer or during the prayer? Before. We can go on and on and on and on and on and on. Alright? And niyyah, covering the awrah, happens before or during. All of these happen before. That's a condition. In order for this action to be not accepted, Allah knows best if the action is accepted. In order for the action to be correct, you need to fulfill the conditions. Once you fulfill those conditions and you've actually entered into the act of worship, that's where you find the pillars. Now a pillar, ikhwani fillah, is something that if you miss out a pillar, the action is null and void. If you miss out a pillar, the action is null and void.
Does that now mean that a shart can be missed whilst you're doing the action?
When do you mean a shart can be? Give me an example.
An example, I can't think of the top of my head, but I was thinking of, for example, a rukun, you can't miss that, for example, standing.
But even with standing, remember for the salah, ma'al qudra. Yeah. But let me just explain what you said because it's important. The brother said that once you start the prayer, all right, standing is a pillar. You have to stand when you pray. But there is a like a clause if you've got the ability to do so. If you've got the ability, standing ma'al qudra. That's what they say. Al qudra bi ma'na, the capability or the ability. If you don't have the ability to stand, what are you allowed to do? And if you can't sit down, what are you allowed to do? وهكذا. Do you know what I'm saying? So al-qudra is very important for that particular rukun. But generally speaking, the other arkan, you're not allowed to miss it out. And if you do miss it out, the action is null and void. You have to do it again.
But for example, if you're doing like the first tashahhud, technically, if you miss that, it doesn't mean your prayer is null and void.
Because
it says the thing.
yeah, because this is what I was going to move on to next. Because that's not a rukun. Yeah, okay, that's not. Once you're inside the action, that's where the arkan, the pillars are found, and also that's where the wajibat are found. The wajibat.
And it's in the rukun?
La, it's inside the action. It's inside the action. So you got those arkan. If you miss out a rukun, a pillar from the pillars of the salah, action null and void. However, if you miss out a wajib, an obligatory element from the obligatory elements of the salah, then you can compensate for that by sujood al-sahw. So just to khulasatan, to wrap it up, conditions are found before the action, the pillars and the obligatory elements are found inside the action. And the sunnah, but I don't want to see too many terminologies at the moment. The pillars, you're not allowed to miss them out under no circumstances, with the exception of standing with but you're still not missing it out because you can't do it. And the obligatory elements, because sometimes when you hear the word obligatory, what comes to mind straight away, you have to do it. So it can become a bit confusing when you hear pillar and obligatory elements. But what it is, pillars, you can't miss out. Obligatory elements, if you forget it legitimately, like you don't leave it out on purpose. You legitimately, you stand up. Let's stay with the salah. You stand up for the first tashahhud, which is on the second rak'ah. You stand up and you forget to do at-tahiyyatu lillah. Not because you're lazy and you just wanted to quickly hurry up the salah. You legitimately forget to do it. Your salah can still be salvaged. You can still fix it by doing 2 sajdas of sahw, 2 sajdas of forgetfulness to rectify that issue. And this is why it's so important that you study to know the difference between the pillars and the obligatory elements. And those things that are sunnah, reciting surah, a surah, ba'd al-Fatiha, is that a pillar or is that a wajib or is that something that's a sunnah? I want the brother there.
It's a sunnah.
Sunnah. And what is the dalil? Ma huwa dalil?
Because there's no the salah, the Fatiha. There's no salah without the Fatiha.
Mumtaz, beautiful. You hear that, guys? Very good. The Prophet ﷺ قال في حديث صحيح لا صلاة لمن لم يقرأ بفاتحة الكتاب. There's no prayer for the one that doesn't recite al-Fatiha. Meaning, if you do recite al-Fatiha and you come with all of the other pillars and the wajibat, your salah is sound. It just means that you won't get as many rewards as you potentially could do if you obviously recited a surah. Fantastic, ikhwani. Fillah. Last question, bi'idhni Rabbina Azza wa Jalla. Let me make this one super hard. Oh gosh, what am I gonna say? This ain't gonna be too difficult. Abu Huraira. You don't even have the question yet, right? What's his name? I want a full 100, man. Ad-Dawsi, may Allah bless you, Akhi, man. May Allah bless you. Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr Ad-Dawsi. Akhi, you revise your notes, or you just had this from before? You went, oh, that's what I'm trying to say. But everybody, the majority of people were here though, but they didn't remember it. Is it because you go over your notes, or you just remembered it? Allah bless you, Akhi. Allah bless you. You know what I'm gonna do actually? The Radox. I'm gonna get the Radox for you next week, inshallah. I'm gonna get the Radox. You won the Radox, Akhi. You won the Radox.
What's Radox?
Bath salts.
Too young to know.
Oh yeah, you ain't got you don't get the muscle crump shit.
Yeah.
You can't disturb me when I'm laughing, Akhi. Man, maybe pause my laugh. I'm joking. Has everybody got a printout now, guys? Everybody that wants a printout, have you got a printout? Yeah. Can you give one to? Oh, you got one? One test. The writing's bigger, right? All right, one test. All right, guys. I wasn't wasting time. I was just trying to buy some time to the printouts already. All right, Bismillah. نبدأ بإذن ربنا عز وجل. We're gonna go from Hadith. Where we are? I think it's 31. No, 40. Is it 40? 31. Yeah. The lesson's going to be quite short today, guys, but needless to say, inshallah wa ta'ala, sanastafid. Alright, guys, remember the last hadith that we were dealing with in our last lesson was pertaining to what? The last hadith we were dealing with was pertaining to what? Period blood, right? Period blood. And what did we say as it relates to the hukum of the period blood? Tahir or the najis? Najis. It says najis. باتفاق العلماء. باتفاق العلماء. It's unanimous. Period blood is impure.
Do questions after?
Yeah, let's because of time, and let's just roll, inshallah ta'ala. So now, what I should have done in essence, right? I should have covered the hadith that we're going to do right now, which the brother, inshallah, yeah, which the brother's going to read. I really should have covered this last week because it's connected to what we covered last week, and then we're going to start a new chapter. But قدر الله وما شاء فعل. So the title of this particular hadith, as you can see where it says hadith 31, underneath in Arabic it says hadith 31, you've got ... It says the title is Al-Afu an Athari Loan al-Dam Dam al-Hayd, excusing the traces of the color of menstrual or menstruational blood. Menstrual blood. Is it menstrual?
Yes.
Menstrual, yeah? Excusing the traces of menstrual blood, if you like, or the color of menstrual blood. نعم تفضل يا أخانا.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قالت خولة يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
يا رسول الله.
يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Excellent.
فإن لم يذهب الدم قال صلى الله عليه وسلم يكفيك الماء ولا يضرك أثره. أخرجه الترمذي وسنده ضعيف.
Excellent, well done. I heard somebody say something. Did somebody? He said أثره. What? Yeah. What? Yeah. What? إيش قلت؟ ماذا قلت؟ I don't know. you. Sorry, Ibrahim. I can't see him, أخي.
Yeah, I said أثره.
ماذا قال؟
I said أثره.
اوكي ما في مشكلة. جزاك الله خير أخي. فعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قالت خولة يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن لم يذهب الدم قال صلى الله عليه وسلم يكفيك الماء ولا يضرك أثره. أخرجه الترمذي وسنده ضعيف. For those of you that want to write this down, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrated that Khawla said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, suppose the trace, in brackets, the trace of the blood does not go. So now we're speaking about the trace of menstrual blood. We're talking about menstrual blood, not just any blood. Menstrual blood does not go. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, washing it with water will suffice you. Washing it with water will suffice you, and its trace won't harm you. Reported by at-Tirmidhi, and in its sanad, the chain of narrators, there is weakness. And its sanad is weak. And its sanad is weak. As-sanad bima'na al-isnad. Ma ma'na al-isnad? Chain. There's a weakness in the chain. What do you guys understand from that? There's a weakness in the chain. Sheikh Abdurrahman, sir? Sheikh Abdurrahman, what does that mean? There's a weakness in the chain. Mumtaz, there's a deficiency in one of the narrators. What is a deficiency? There's a narrator in this chain by the name of Abdullah ibn Lahi'a. I believe is the correct pronunciation. Lahi'a. There's an individual in that chain. His name is Abdullah ibn Lahi'a. And this individual, he, as the ulama say, is mukhtalit or mukhtalat. He used to get mixed up. Or some ulama say laysa bithiqa, he's not reliable. He's not reliable. Why? Because his library of books that he used to write down the hadith of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, it got burnt. It got burnt. His library is everything that he used to write down got burnt. So as a precaution, the ulama they declare him to be weak, and As a result, the ruling of this hadith has taken a weak ruling. However, the meaning of the hadith is sahih. The meaning of the hadith is sahih. Because once you have najasa on your clothes and you've washed that najasa, and the trace remains, is the trace najis? La, because the ayn al najasa, you said the ayn was the matter, right? Do you remember? The ayn of the najasa has gone. And as long as you've done what you can do, you've used a stick, as we've said, or as we're going to see in a little while, you've used some type of substance which is permissible to use in order to get that najasa away. Whatever remains on your clothes after that is excused. It's pardoned. It's forgiven. Does that make sense, ikhwani fillah? Naam. Somebody had a question now. Abdullah ibn Lahi'a. Yeah, it's actually there in Arabic, akhi. You see where it says? After I wrote the English of the hadith, it says, هذا الحديث. Can you see it? It says رواه الترمذي بسند ضعيف نعم فيه عبد الله ابن لهيعة وهو مختلط اختلط في آخر حياته. He became confused in the latter stage of his life بسبب أن مكتبته ماذا احترقت أو احترقت. It was burned. فصارت روايته ضعيفة. As a result of all of his books being burned, then his narrations have now been taken the ruling that they are ضعيفة according to the scholars of hadith. لكن الحكم صحيح. The ruling is actually correct in terms of if you wash away the najasa and the trace still remains, then it doesn't harm you. However, as it relates to the hukm of the hadith, it's da'if. Makes sense, ikhwani? Yeah? And that can apply to semen on your trousers, because sometimes you might have semen in your boxer shorts and you clean it, wash it in the washing machine, but you might still see traces. Especially if the garment is a garment the color of the garment is like black, for example. You might see slight white stains. So that's a benefit. That's a benefit there. بإذن الله تعالى. اسأل.
ما فائدة. What is the benefit?
فائدة.
شيخنا حاتي حديث.
Yeah, what's the benefit of the shaykh bringing the hadith?
No.
Yeah, if it's weak.
No.
Yeah, sometimes a hadith, it might be weak, but it might not be very, very weak, where somebody's like not an innovator, a fabricator. You with me? It could be like, for example, the situation that happened to this individual, his library got burned. It could be that there isn't anything else in this chapter, right? Anything sahih in this chapter that deals with this issue. So they brought a weak hadith, because that's the only thing in this bag. Or it could be that he brought it to tell you that it's weak. You with me? It could be that the shaykh brought it to let you know that this hadith is weak. There could be various reasons.
It's not his kalam, he's just trying to attribute it.
Yeah, no, he's not saying. The thing is as well, this is one of this is your first lesson today, isn't it? Yeah, jazakallahu khair. One of the benefits of this hadith is that Ibn Hajar, every time he narrated that, or he mentioned one of the hadith of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasallam in his book, he mentioned where you can find it, where was it reported, Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, and he would mention the hukm of the hadith. That's a benefit that at that time, not all books were doing that. You with me? So yeah. And also, in addition, إخواني, ماذا قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن؟ فاتقوا الله ماذا؟ ما استطعتم. What does that mean? Fear Allah to the best of your ability. So you've got some najasa in your clothes, right? And you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of your ability by doing what? Trying to wash it. After you've washed it, there's nothing else you can do. You've done all that you can do. So anything else, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is excused. And you can use that for various issues. Abu Sumaya, is that the message? Whose phone's this one here? That's yours? طيب. لست بشيخ أخي. لست بشيخ. أنا أخوك.
أخي. I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, you see a weak hadith, right?
Can you use it
can
for
we
dalil?
use it- Can we use it for dalil?
Excellent.
Because it's weak.
Excellent. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, the ulama, they speak about this. They speak about this. First of all, if anybody uses a weak hadith, right, it's an amana, it's a trust, right, that you declare the ruling of that hadith to be weak. You tell the people that, you know, you like, for example, if I say, you know, there's a hadith reported to the, attributed to the Prophet ﷺ that he mentioned, and he mentioned the hadith. If you know, if there's blood, you wash it off, and there's the athar, the trace remains, that it doesn't harm you. You have to tell the people, but the ulama say that this hadith is weak. That's part of your amana in conveying knowledge, number one. Number two, as I remember, the ulama, they give a concession, i.e. they make an allowance for using weak ahadith as a dalil, so long as that hadith is not shadid al-da'af, it's not very, 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 very weak. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just a minor weakness, but it's in the areas of, if the hadith indicates to doing a virtuous action. You with me? Not in any other area like aqidah or anything like that. If the hadith is indicating by calling you to do a virtuous action, so long as it's not shadid al-da'af, very, very, very weak, then some ulama say that it's permissible to do so. But the other argument is this: we got so many authentic ahadith calling to virtuous actions. Why do you need to go to, do you know what I'm saying, any weak hadith? Allah knows best.
That's another question. Okay, when you say very, very weak, does it mean it
Fabricated. Somebody's known to lie on the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. You know with me? Somebody in the chain of narration, is known to be like a major sinner. Somebody's known to just to lie, according to, you know, not just to lie on the Prophet. That's obviously a serious thing, but even lying on people, you with me? That's still a serious issue as well. So, yeah, exactly.
You said, even though this is a weak hadith, that the wording is sound.
No, I didn't say the word, I said the hukum. The hukum is sahih, i.e. that the trace that remains after you've attempted to remove the najasa, that doesn't harm you. Do you know what I'm saying? That doesn't harm you.
Do we treat it like, you know, the narrations of Ahl al-Kitab? Do we look at it like that, in the sense of,
What do you mean?
we neither believe it or disbelieve it, unless if it's like it's negative, like when they're saying something negative. If they're saying something that agrees with our scripture, then we view it in that way. Like, because it's a weak hadith, do we look at like, is it best to take it like this didn't occur? Basically, is what I'm saying.
Allahu a'lam. Allahu a'lam.
So a person wouldn't fall into the category if he narrates a weak hadith as lying on the Prophet.
Remember, with
Not the fabrication level, like what the brother said, but if there's a weakness in it.
Remember, if he clarifies that it's weak, then he hasn't lied. He hasn't lied. Sometimes as well, for example, you know, there's certain things that you can say in your wording to protect you from potentially lying. Because the Prophet ﷺ قال ماذا؟ من كذب علي متعمدا فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. أليس كذلك؟ Whomsoever lies on me intentionally. And even in another narration, it said that it's not mentioned intentionally. فَلْيَتَبَوَّعَ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. Then let him take his seat in the hellfire. So you have to be careful when you say قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ alayhi salatu wasalam. Lakin, what can you say to protect yourself if you want to narrate a hadith but you're not 100% sure?
أو كما قال رسول الله.
أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. أو كما قال رسول الله. أو كما قال النبي الله. أو كما قال. Or kama as qal, he said. Plenty of times you hear the ulama say, Ibrahim, you got a question, bro?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what that one was about.
I was waiting for you to finish speaking.
I can smell smoke. You guys feel smoke? Cigarette?
West Croydon, innit? That's right.
West Croydon. أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Or you can say قيل, it was said. Because now you haven't attributed it to the Prophet. You hear me say that so many times. I might narrate a hadith and I've got nothing in front of me right now. I'm just relying on my brain, which is obviously subject to error, a lot of them. So when I narrate a hadith, I'll say, oh, kama qal. Or sometimes I might know a hadith and I'll still read it I'll still read it, no problem. Especially when it comes to Quranic ayat, I'll just read. Do you know what I'm saying? Tafadhal.
We see with many weak narrations, and if there's so many, it becomes a Hasan hadith, isn't it?
Say that again?
If there's many weak narrations of the same thing, and they collect it, it becomes a Hasan hadith.
Okay, so I think from what I understand of the question, if you've got many weak hadith, but they're not shadid al-da'af, they're not really, really weak, then it bumps it up to Hasan li ghayrihi. But to be honest, akhi, to get into this mas'ala right now we're going to go into Mustalah al-Hadith and Ilm al-Hadith and stuff like that. I don't think it would, especially due to the time, it would benefit to go into that. But I do see what you're saying.
There's a point in
Number 2?
the Fawaid, yeah.
I was about to read it, but the questions keep flying. So you talk about point number 2, Zahir al-Hadith.
Yeah, when it talks about the Hadith afterwards, where it says, حكم بالضلع يغسل بالماء والسدر.
Hey, now. Okay, cool.
So how come they use it?
Yeah, alright. So now this hadith, this particular hadith right here, sorry guys. This particular hadith, right? What you benefit from, the first, I'm talking about the hadith of Abu Hurairah, the hadith number 31. It indicates that merely washing the period blood with water, just putting water on it, يكفيك الماء, sufficient. This is why it says ظاهر الحديث أنه يكفي الماء في إزالة دم الحيض ولا يجب استعمال شيء آخر. مثلا, it doesn't say anything about using a stone. It doesn't say anything about using a stick to get away the najasa. It just says يكفيك الماء. So it could come to somebody's mind that, oh, you can just use water. Alright? But it says ولكن but ورد في حديث أم قيس bint Muhsin, which this hadith I'm going to narrate to you right now is authentic. In this particular hadith, she asked the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding the period blood, and he said that went on her thawb. He said, "Hukkihi bidil'in," scrub it with a stick or scratch it with a stick. "Waghsilihi bima'in wa sidr," and wash it with water and lotus tree. I don't know what a lotus tree is. I've never seen it before, but it's obviously a tree that you can. It's one of the permissible things that you can use in order to take away the najasa of ad-dam. Does that make sense, guys? If anybody wants to know what a lotus tree is, go to Google. Just type in lotus tree.
What's sidr?
Not honey, no. You know what you do with the dead bodies as well? They put sidr on it as well.
Yeah, but doesn't it come from like the sidr?
Again, Allahu A'la. Allahu A'la. Does that make sense, Ikhwani? So the hadith indicates that water is sufficient. However, there is another hadith that mentions that you should scratch it with a stick. You should also wash it and use lotus leaves. And I think نكتفي بهذا إن شاء الله تعالى. ننتقل إن شاء الله تعالى إلى باب الوضوء. تفضل يا أخانا. What will you show me, bro? Oh, let's do it afterwards.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لولا أن أشق على أمتي
Afwan, you skipped the hadith.
No.
لأمرتهم مع كل وضوء
نعم. أخرجه
مالك وأحمد والنسائي وصححه ابن
خزيمة. Excellent. ممتاز. طيب guys, now we're entering into the chapter of purification, chapter of ablution, my bad. The chapter of ablution. Now notice that the Shaykh, he first began this Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purification, with what? The hukum of water. Do you remember? Ma al-Bahr, the water of the ocean. And then after that he started to speak about what's pure, what's not pure. And then after that, he went on to speak about the vessel that you can use, what makes the vessel najis, or what makes the vessel, what you can use to purify the water. Now he's moved on to Mada, the bab of ablution, and all of which is used to make ablution. That's the link between the tartib, the sequential order of how the Shaykh has listed everything out. Now, I know you've said that I've missed a hadith, but it's not that I've missed it. I'm going to use this as supporting evidence. طيب. Now, before we get into this hadith, al-wudu, all right, al-wudu with a dhamma on the waw. It differs from al-wadu with a fatha on the waw. Al-wudu, al-wadu. And I've spoke about the difference between these two before. Who can remember the difference between al-wudu and al-wadu?
One talking about the water, one talking about the action.
Beautiful, akhi. Mumtaz amani. Al-wudu is speaking about the action of getting water and rubbing it on at least 4 parts of your body. Yeah, including the head, but that's wiped, right? Al-wudu bil fatha on the waw is speaking about the water that you use to make al-wudu. All right, it's the same as as-sahur and as-suhur. Before Fajr comes in during the month of Ramadan, or when somebody wants to fast, they eat mada as-suhur. But the food that they're actually eating is called as-sahur. Make sense? It's the difference between the fatha and the dhamma on the first letter. That's all. But when we're speaking about al-wudu shar'an, what are we speaking about? We're speaking about using water with a specific intention, ala sifatin makhsusa, in a specific way on specific parts of your body. One more time, using water with a specific intention in a specific way on specific parts of your body. Now, when we say using water, that takes away any other types of liquid that's not water. Oil, can't use oil to make al-wudu, or in any type of juice, you can't use it because it's not called water. Make sense? So that takes away anything other than any liquid other than water. Then we say biniyatin makhsusa. When we say biniyatin makhsusa with a specific intention, why are we speaking about biniyatin makhsusa? With the intention to worship Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Because if somebody made al-wudu to cool themselves down, or they wanted to make al-wudu because they just wanted to be clean, is this wudu shar'an? Is this a legislative ablution? No, because they haven't got a specific intention. And when we say ala sifatin makhsusa, in a specific way, you can't just make al-wudu any way you want. There's a specific way that we've been taught how to make al-wudu. And last but not least, ala a'da'i makhsusa, on specific parts of your body. Can I wash my knees when I'm doing wudu and say this is wudu, or the back of my knees because they're a bit sweaty? Do you know what I'm saying? All right, no. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam allamana kayfa natawadda'u. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam allamana, he taught us kayfa, how, natawadda'u, how we should make al-wudu. Does that make sense, ikhwani? هكذا يعني شرحه الشيخ فوزان. That's how Shaykh Fawzan, he defined al-wudu. Now, the asl of al-wudu comes from the ayah in the Quran where Allah tabarak wa ta'ala clearly states, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة. Finish the ayah, إخواني. ارفع صوتك. من يقرأ الآية? You can't. Who knows the ayah? I just want one person. من البداية. يا أيها الذين آمنوا.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين.
ممتاز. Translate for me. يا أيها الذين آمنوا. ارفع صوتك. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم You make yours. Wash up the whole. Wash the whole leg. وأرجلكم. Their legs? This is math. Because of some innovation. No, what's that?
Wash your legs.
Mumtaz, there we go. Wash your feet. Wash your feet. وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Why? Why? لا, why?
Okay, because the masah, it starts off with the ghusl, فاغسلوا, and everything that comes after that is mansub.
أخي come, تعال. اجلس هنا. أخي come sit here, bro. Where you study that?
Huh?
Where you study that?
Just here.
No. I haven't mentioned that. I don't think I've mentioned that before.
No, it's in.
You just know it because studying elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's daqiq, akhi, man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is Arabic, akhi. You're starting your journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have attained faith. إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, when you stand to perform as-salah, pay attention to the next verb after that. ماذا قال? فَاغْسِلُوا, wash. It's an amr. Wash. Wash what? فَاغْسِلُوا وَجُوهَكُمْ وَجُوهُكُمْ وَوَجُوهِكُمْ. ماذا? وَجُوهَكُمْ. For those of you that are studying Arabic, that word wujuh is the plural of wajh. Wajh. Plural of faces, wujuh. But notice Allah says wujuhakum. The fact that He says wujuhakum means that this is the object of the verb faghsilu, meaning wash your face. That's how daqiq, that's how precise the Arabic language is. If somebody says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha qumtum ila salati faghsilu wujuhukum, say khata. أنت أخطأت في القراءة. فاغسلوا وجوهكم خطأ. أنت أخطأت في القراءة. فاغسلوا وجوهكم صحيح. Because it's منصوب صح؟ المفعول به منصوب وعلامة نصبه الفتحة الظاهرة على آخره صح؟ جيد. فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم صح؟ أيديكم. Just like we said وجوهكم أيديكم مفعول به. Then Allah says وامسحوا. ما معنى وامسح؟ وامسحوا برؤوسكم. وامسحوا برؤوسكم. I never said برؤوسكم. Like I said وجوهكم وأيديكم. It changed now برؤوسي. Because the preposition حرف jar came in front of وامسحوا بي. بسم الله بسمي. لا نقول بسم الله. نقول بسم الله, because that ba causes the word that comes after it to take a kasra. Sorry guys, my eyes is like really blurry right now. Do you understand? وَامْسَهُ بِرَؤُوسِكُمْ. Then it says وَأَرْجُلَهُ, meaning that the washing of the feet is connected to, the feet is connected to washing and not wiping. It's connected to washing and not wiping. And it's such an easy thing to miss if you're not acquainted with the Arabic grammar. If anybody wants to study Arabic, you know what I'm saying? You go for all of that.
Say August ICT. Ibrahim Abel to me.
I just started messing up. Are we on the same page, guys?
Just a quick question. I was told by a brother that when you let's say you're praying Dhuhr or Asr, in fact, you're praying Asr, but you're about to make wudu, but you're outside. Because you've made wudu when you prayed Dhuhr, when you're to do your feet, you can wipe it over your socks. Is that true, or
Yeah.
what's that one?
Yeah, Mumtaz, excellent question. Akhi, may Allah bless you. So the brother is saying that if somebody, doesn't matter what salah by the way, if somebody wakes up in the morning and then they make al-wudu, so they're in the state of at-tahara, and then they put on their khuf, leather socks or socks like this, and the strongest opinion, wallahu a'lam, actually let me not say that, but there is a difference of opinion with socks that cover the ankles and socks that don't cover the ankles. But anyway, let's not get into that. You've made wudu, you've put on your socks, you're in a state of al-wudu, then you break it at some stage in the day. Pass in, go toilet, so you're not in al-wudu. The salah comes in now, next salah comes in. Do you have to take off your socks and wash your feet again up to the ankles? Or does it suffice for you just to wipe over the top of your socks? And the answer is that it suffices just to wipe over. So long as you haven't taken off the socks, as long as you had the socks on whilst you were in a state of tahara. Meaning, if you made wudu, washed your feet, then you broke it. Now you're out of al-wudu, you're out of al-tahara, and then you put your socks on and you're still out. You can't wipe over now. Does that make sense? You have to put the leather sock on or the sock on whilst you're in the state of purification. طيب نعم.
Just to get this. عندي سؤال هل تمكن نعم هل تمكن دراسة الفقه بدون مذهب؟
هل يمكن دراسة الفقه بدون المذهب؟
نعم.
Respectfully, Akhi, I'm gonna because it's a question that's outside of the lesson, and we said in a few weeks ago that we're only gonna stick to questions pertaining to the dars, if you don't mind. I'm just conscious about the time as well, and I also there's a few more things that I want to mention mention. But what I will say is better to learn, especially fiqh, according to a madhab. I'll just say that. Oh, sorry, bro. It's better to do that. Otherwise, if you don't and you jump into comparative fiqh, it can be very difficult. So many opinions. Stick to a madhab, and learn the stuff of that madhab. Then you are at least you're mutamakkin, you're solid and grounded in one school of thought. It doesn't mean that you have to stick to that madhab if something else that's more authentic comes to you, but that's what I would suggest.
Question is, what is the ruling for wiping over the shoes?
Yes, nafsu shay. What's the so the question here is connected to your thing there about wiping over the socks and stuff. Can you wipe over your shoes? According to what I understand, you can also wipe over the shoes as well.
Is there a period of time that you can do that for?
Yes, excellent question. There is a period of time that you can do it for the traveller. I think it's 3 days and 3 nights, and for the one that's muqim, they say it's 20, but it's not. It's let me get back to you properly next week, inshallah ta'ala, because this my eyes just mashed up, man.
One thing I would want to know, do they have to be leather socks though?
No. Good question. They don't have to be leather socks. Like the majority of people are wearing like these thick cotton socks, yeah. And as long as it's not, really, you can get like really, really thin socks. And the issue that I brought up with regards to the ankle socks is this: some ulama say that if the sock doesn't come up to the ankle, it doesn't count. It has to cover the ankle. However, the other argument is that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it's plausible to think that you had rich companions and you're going to have poor companions. It's within the realms of reality that some of even the leather socks, Muhammad, of the companions, they would have had holes in it from time to time. So that's the other argument, to say that even the socks, they call them ankle socks nowadays, you can still wipe over it. However, it's just safer. This is why, if I'm wearing ankle socks, I wouldn't wipe over it, because I want to stay away from the khilaf. I want to stay away from, the difference of opinion in that particular mas'ala. Yeah, but there's a time limit for if you're a resident, i.e. you're muqim in a country, in a place, or if you're a traveller. If you're a traveller, you got a concession for keeping it on for longer. I think it's 3 days, 3 nights, and they say 24 hours, but I heard somebody say it's not actually 24 hours. It's a day and a night or something like that. But let me get back to you. We good? Question? Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, now, so we've covered what al-wudu means, al-wadu and al-wudu. We've covered what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, and we've learned the definition of al-wudu. Alright, we've learned the definition of al-wudu. Now, the word al-wudu comes from the word al-wada'a, al-wada'a bil-hamza, and that means illumination. Why? Because al-wudu, making ablution, is going to be a sign of illumination for the Muslim on the Day of Judgment. As the Prophet ﷺ called in a hadith, and the hadith is right in front of you, Abu Sumayya. This is what the hadith says here, and this is not from Ibn Hajar. This is the hadith I'm going to read right now, is not from Ibn Hajar. Alright, it's something that has been used just to prove that al-wudu comes from the word al-wada'a. إن أمتي قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أمتي يدعون يوم القيامة غرا محجلين من آثار الوضوء فمن استطاع منكم أن يطيل غرة فليفعل متفق عليه. Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, my people will be summoned. My people will be summoned, yani they'll be called on the day of judgment with white faces and hands and feet from the marks of ablution. So our ablution are going to be yani a sign of illumination for us on the day of judgment. If any of you can extend his brightness, then let him do so. What did the Prophet ﷺ mean? If anybody can extend his brightness, then we have to go back to the ulama to find out what they say that means. Because this isn't the focal point of what I'm presenting today, I'm just going to leave it there. And then inshallah ta'ala, if Allah wills, at a later day we can cover that. Now as it relates to al-wudu, ikhwani fillah, and this is really, really important. Al-wudu has sunan elements. Alright? Sunan elements. So if you do it, you're rewarded. If you don't do it, you're not sinned. It's got obligatory elements. And it's also got a wajibat. So it's got furud, things that have to be done. And then you've got obligatory elements that the Shaykh inshallah ta'ala is going to go into more detail later on. But what I want to discuss is this. Who can tell me how to make al-wudu correctly? I.e., what are the fundamental parts that have to be done when you're making al-wudu?
You have to do your hands 3 times. You have to wash your mouth 3 times. Nose 3 times. I think your mouth once or 3 times. And then your arms 3 times. Your hair once. Your ears once, and then your feet 3 times.
Excellent, Habibi. What you mentioned right now, Akhi Khalid, barakallahu fiqh, is wudu according to the sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. So if you do that, you're going to be rewarded extra. But I'm talking about those parts of al-wudu that have to be done.
Is it the same parts but just once?
Excellent. You've still included the sunnah of making al-wudu, but instead of doing it 3 times, you've just done it once.
I don't know, maybe this is wrong or right.
Be confident, Shaykh.
Intention before doing the wudu?
I mean, you should have the intention before all acts of worship, but that's not the question I was asking. Let me see somebody else that hasn't participated. Now, okay, excellent. The ulama speak about this, but I'm going to say no, that's not what I was looking for. And I can hear you, I can see you, you can see me, bro. Even though my eyes messed up, I can still see you. I want somebody that hasn't. Ameen ya Rab, wallahi, ameen. I want somebody that hasn't. Abu Taymiyyah. Taysir. Why do I keep calling you Taymiyyah, man? Taysir, Maysur. Ibn Taymiyyah. ما سمعت السؤال؟ You didn't hear the question? No problem. What are the obligatory elements of al-wudu? Mumtaz. What does the ayah say? You catch that, ikhwani? All of us have learned how to make wudu by doing this. Bismillah, grabbing the water, right? With your right hand first, washing it, getting in between your fingers up until the wrist, right? You can do it once, twice, or thrice, 3 times. Right hand, then your left hand. Then what do you do after that? Al-madmada wal-istinshaq, right? Al-madmada, inserting water into your mouth, and then wal-istinshaq, up the nose, 3 times. Then,
Wash your face
3 times. And then, when you go to wash your hands up into the elbows, where do you guys start from? Just point to the area that you start from. Just point to the area that you start from. Okay, so just point, ishara. So remember, you've washed your hands already. You've washed. Madmada wal-istinshaq, al-wajh. Now you're gonna wash up to your elbows. Where do you start from? That's the question. So you point to your wrist. The Shaykh here points to the wrist. Who says wrist? Because you've washed your hands already, right? Yeah, right? So we don't have to wash the hands again, right?
Is it both?
Huh?
You can from both sides, but you have to wash it up to the finger.
Mumtaz. That's هذا هو الصواب. That's the right answer. So when you wash your hands again, when you go to wash your elbows, you do your fingers again up the whole hand, because that's considered the hand up to the elbows, right? But that's not what I mean. What the Sheikh answered, he said that the ayah explicitly states, "O you who have attained faith, if you stand to make the salah, wash your face." Meaning what, ikhwani?
Face is wajib, the rest is sunnah.
You catch that one, guys? You catch that? What we did at the beginning when you wash your hands and then you wash your hands, the hands is sunnah. I mean, it's extra rule. So you can go and say Bismillah and just wash your face straight. But included in the face is what the ulama say, al-madmad wa istinshaq, because it's part of the face. So wash your mouth and your nose and then your face 3 times. You with me? I just wanted to put that out there, because when I first started practicing, I was ignorant of that for a long time. Even down to this, the question I asked you, I used to, after I'd done my madmad wal istinshaq and my wajh, I would get the water, and so I get the water and you wash from here. I used to wash from here. I used to be with you guys until somebody told me. And in fact, not only that, you could be negligent in just washing your hands like that, but it's to get between. These are just little delicate things that I've just picked up over the years, and obviously I've asked scholars, and they said, no, this is how you're supposed to do it. Now, any questions?
You know when you have the water cup in your hand and then you put your arm like that, you let the water fall down, and then you wash it like that. That's fine, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the other way you do?
No, that's what I'm doing.
No, but what else could you do? That's the question.
Like put in your hand and then wash it instead.
Put it in your left hand and then go like that.
Yeah, but he said that you go like that, you let it drop, and then you rub.
Because when you cup the water in your hand, and you go like that, it just goes all the way down your arm.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to say, are you saying that you go like that and you just go like that one time and you say, khalas, it's done?
Turn the tap on.
No.
Slow
Soda. My question is, once you do this motion, do you rub it afterwards or you don't rub it?
I let the water go down a little bit and then I rub.
Cool. Can we move on?
Yes.
Namshi.
So it's wiping over. It's not you get the water and you wash it over.
Excellent. It's wiping. So it's not obviously. So your hair's gotta get curly, like, because this is water, for the most part. This is water for the most part.
The rest is Jericho.
For the most part, it's just water. Mashallah, thank you. You know what I'm saying? You can tell the difference in energy. Mashallah, it's Jericho. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, to answer your question, it's you wet your hands and then Huh? Asla, what does that mean? Bowed?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that word still. I've never had to learn that bowed. You know what I'm saying?
What's the Arabic word for Jericho? You should learn that one.
I don't need it, bro. I ain't got no Jericho. It's a little bit of water, like I said. We're on the same, so everybody are on the same page now, yeah? Bismillah nabda. So the hadith again, so we can recap everybody's mind. And Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل وضوء أخرجه مالك وأحمد والنسائي وصححه ابن خزيمة. The meaning of which is Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrated, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, had I not feared burdening my ummah, for those of you that want to write this down, had I not feared burdening my ummah, I would have commanded them to use siwak, meaning al-miswak, with every ablution. Reported by Malik, Ahmed, and Nasa'i, and Ibn Khuzaymah graded it sahih, sound, and Al-Bukhari mentioned it as a mu'allaq, suspended without its chain of narrators. Mumtaz. That's what we're going to get into today. Now the word lawla in the hadith, which is the first word that the Prophet ﷺ said, lawla an ashukka ala ummati, lawla. We've translated it in English as had I not feared, right? Had I not feared, yani lawla an ashukka, had I not feared. But the ulama use this as a proof to say that as-siwak, al-miswak, isti'mal al-siwak, isti'mal al-miswak is not an obligation. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, had I not feared, it was going to be a hardship, I would have commanded. Meaning that the only reason why he didn't command the usage of al-miswak with every ablution is what? The difficulty. So it's a rahmah from him, alayhi salatu wasalam, alayna, on us, that he didn't command us to have to do this.
That's the qaida you spoke about as well.
Al-mushaqqatu tajibu. You could apply it here. So lawla here, it's used to say that something has been prevented, in this context anyway, from being an obligation due to something else. What has been prevented from being an obligation? Al-miswak. What was that thing that prevented it from being an obligation?
Hardship.
Difficulty, hardship. Say that again?
Is it a harf, ism,
no, it's not a fi'l. I believe it would be an ism. I believe it would be an ism, wallahu a'lam. طيب, I believe it would be an ism, wallahu a'lam. طيب, so in this hadith, what we can take from it, right? What we can take from it is this. The usage of the miswak with every ablution is recommended and it's not an obligation. Due to the word lawla. Due to the word lawla. The usage of the miswak is recommended, highly recommended, of course, and it's not an obligation. And it's not an obligation. Now the scholars they differ, ikhwani fillah, as it relates to when do you actually use the miswak when you're making al-wudu. Do you use it before you make the wudu, or do you make it during the wudu? Abu Sumayy, ماذا تقول? Yeah, before. So you use it before and then you make al-wudu. Yeah. Alright? So the ulama, they differ over two opinions. Some say you use it before. So you use the miswak and then you make al-wudu. Some say no, you use it when you're doing the madmada. What did I say the madmada meant was? Not the face, the mouth. The rinsing of the mouth or the gargling of the mouth, right? So once you get to that stage, then you use the miswak. Why? Because that's the time where obviously if you've got food in your mouth, using the miswak is going to remove, for example, the food from your teeth or the side of your mouth, whatever. But the actual madmada, putting the water in your mouth and spitting it out, is going to get everything out your mouth. However, having said that, even though the hadith doesn't specify, the closest to the truth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is that it's before. Why? Because the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, it's not, there's nothing reported from him that he used it during. There's nothing reported that he used it during, and Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala knows best. And ashukka yashukku, a fear. Yeah, قريب من هذا المعنى, but not exactly the same. Burdening, to burden.
So just a question from the Ismaeel. So just clarification. So they said using the miswak is a sunnah.
Sunnah, yeah, for sure. Using the miswak is a sunnah. Why though? Who can tell me why it's sunnah?
Because the action of the Prophet is unrecommended.
Yeah, definitely, because he did it. Yeah, but he took it from the manzila of being wajib by saying that had I not feared it was going to be a hardship. Do you know what I'm saying? With the lawla, that's the reason why. Do you know what I'm saying? Can you imagine, ikhwani, how difficult it would be if we had to use the miswak? Everyone be, you got spare miswak on you. You know what I'm saying? It'd be mad. It'd be quite difficult,
but
man.
For the one that does use the miswak, and they've increased in the perfection of the wudu.
Yeah, and obviously in the mutaba'ah to the Prophet.
The Prophet, it's a brilliant thing.
It's a
brilliant thing to do.
Bila shak, full of rewards. So if you've got the ability to do so, you know, then you should do it. You know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Alright, ikhwani, سنقف هنا. We're going to stop here. Barakallahu fiqh. I forgot to mention, sorry, the title of this, where it says hadith number 32. It's got ... It's the ruling of the miswak at the time of wudu. The ruling of the miswak at the time of wudu. You know. Barakallahu feekum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I'm just going to quickly check this to see if there's any questions there. Naam, Ibrahim.
Remember that question I asked last time, yeah?
I can't remember, you're going to have to remind me.
You know when you get married, you said that the blood of the woman is najasa, yeah? So when you marry
Yeah, no,
someone-
I said the period blood. So you were saying that if you have intercourse with a woman and she's a virgin and then she bleeds on you,
you have to clean them then coming after.
yeah, you know what, to be honest with you, I didn't get a chance to look at this issue, akhi, but just from, you know, just like, number one, I've never ever heard that in all of my years being a Muslim. And number two, that in and of itself will be hardship, akhi. Can you imagine a man's he's just got married, right? Man's a virgin, girl's a virgin, and he has penetrated the girl, and then the girl starts to bleed, and then he stops, goes and cleans himself up, and he loses his erection, and then the whole thing just messes up. I don't believe that's X-rated. Saying erection is not a bad word. I don't think that's it. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, that's hardship again. That's hardship. That's hardship. I need to look into that mas'ala still. No, hardship in the sense that it's like okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Lola, and I believe so. You say a question?
No, it's a good question.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I agree with you.
Yeah, no, it's you married, akhi?
Now see.
Preparing, huh? Trying to get the masail in order from now.
Your lesson's been helping, innit? Because obviously you learn a lot.
Alhamdulillah, all khairs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You mentioned the lote tree, using the branches of the lote tree. I was just finding it online, it's called cedar tree or something like that.
Yeah, no, I know it's called cedar tree. I just don't know what it looks like.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was saying. I've never seen it before. Is this what it looks like?
It's a lote tree, yeah.
Wow.
Lotus is a lily type of lily. It's a different
Okay.
lotus.
Yeah, no, jazakallah khair, man. Shukran jazeelan. All right, let me stop this. Yeah, I don't think there's no more questions, huh? I don't think there's no more questions.